Hi guys! So today what I thought I'd actually do is just fill you in a little bit more about what I actually do, because it's occurred to me after watching Crown and Glory's introduction and Q&A last night that she put up, which I will put a link to the bottom because it's quite interesting if you are a huge fan of Crown and Glory like me. It occurred to me that I have just completely thrown myself into this YouTube world and I haven't really explained to you guys what I kind of actually do. There's been a few snippets that you might have seen about the photo booth, but probably you're all watching this going, who the hell is this girl? What the hell does she do? And why is she making YouTube videos? Well, the answer to why am I making YouTube videos, well duh, because it's fun and you get to know me. Hopefully you enjoy getting to know me. But what I thought might be fun to do today is just tell you a little bit of history about the business itself, how it started, why I started it. There is an About the Photo Booth page on my website and there's About Me on my website, but sometimes it's nice just to be told from the horse's mouth, so to speak, about exactly what I get up to and how it all began, basically. What I also thought might be fun was to actually do it wearing my props from the photo booth. So I'm going to talk to you about very serious stuff and you have to take it seriously with me doing this with my moustache. Can't stop long. So I'll start from the very beginning, it's a very good place to start. So back in 2010 I was working at Booker Cash and Carry. I was working as an event manager for the regional team, and that consisted of supplying lots of catering and alcohol products to lots of big companies like Heineken and Carlsberg. And it was great fun, and actually I really enjoyed it. I had a really nice salary, which I miss massively, and a company car, and the job was pretty awesome. I used to get quite a lot of tickets to festivals from these companies, and I used to go to music venues, and it was an awesome job, and I did love it. But ultimately, I always wanted to work for myself. And for a long time I didn't know how I wanted to work for myself. I knew I was creative, I knew that I wanted to do something to do with photography, and I had loads of different ideas of how to do this, but I didn't actually know of a way to make it a living. There was nothing that I'd come up with that actually was sustainable as a business. So during the time that I was working as a buying assistant, I was doing a bit of photography. I never had any money. I was brought up in a family where we didn't really have any money either. We were skint, we were pretty skint, but we weren't ever, I mean we had quite a nice house, but we just never had any money to spend on anything. But anyway, so my mum managed to get a load of bank charges back, and she was kind enough to give me £1,000, which I paid off quite a bit of my debt. And I also bought myself a Nikon D60, which I think I spent about £400 on at the time, which was a lot of money for me then. It's not the sort of money that I would have ever had spare. It was the best investment I ever made. I started doing some studio shoots for friends because I used to live in Northampton. I used to have a top floor flat, and it was the best flat actually that I ever had. It was top floor flat. You could see out over the racecourse in Northampton over one side, so you could see the Balloon Fiesta from the front of the flat, and out the back you could see a load of rooftops, and it was just really nice. But it was all just a really nice white space, which allowed me to be able to have kind of a studio set up in there, which I just set my camera and my lights up. Oh, did I even have lights? I don't think I even had lights at the time, actually. I think lights came later. I just said to my friends, you know, I'll do some model shoots, but it was good practice, and we got some really nice shots of my friends back then, and I did it all for free. I think I might have charged a little bit to people that I didn't know very well. And that was kind of the start of Fishee Designs, really. Fishee Designs, the name, comes from my name, Emily Fisher. Everyone used to call me Little Fish and Fishee, so that's kind of where it came from, really, Fishee Designs. 2009, I got my job in the event management role. Now, before I actually got that job, I had made the decision that I wanted to move from Wellingborough to Bournemouth, and that was down to a few different reasons, because Wellingborough's a shithole, quite frankly, and Bournemouth's amazing, and my mum had moved to Bournemouth a year beforehand. My grandma's there. I've always wanted to move there, so I just decided that if I got this job, it would then allow me to have the money and everything to afford to live in Bournemouth, because it was a lot more expensive than living in Wellingborough. So they said, yeah, brilliant, you know, if we'll do 3 months here and if everything's going well, we'll let you move to Bournemouth and you can work at the Bournemouth Booker branch. I went to Bournemouth and I got my lovely new flat, which I absolutely adored. But of course I didn't know anyone when I moved to Bournemouth, and I tried my damned hardest to go meet people. I even joined a rounders team, and I don't do sport. And I went along to practice, I met a couple of girls which were quite cool, and what happened? I, stupid me, got hit in the face by a rounders ball and got my first black eye. So needless to say, I didn't ever go back. So in that time, whilst I was kind of filling time, and I'd go to work, and at the Booker branch I was travelling backwards and forwards to Northampton still, because I still had to go back up to Wellingborough one day a week to see the boss man. And yeah, I was travelling around the country quite a lot, meeting suppliers, meeting customers. I was having a whale of a time. The summer was amazing. I went to so many festivals that year in 2000. I moved to Bournemouth 2010. But in the evenings, I was trying to look at ways where I could fill the time, and because I'd been going to all these festivals, a little seed was planted, and I came up with this idea of the photo booth. Basically, my original idea was that I was going to buy a VW camper van, I was going to set the photo booth up in the back of it. I came up with all these amazing plans and these business forecasts, and basically it was going to cost me something like £45,000 to set up this business. Off I trotted to the bank, Lloyd's TSB, to my business bank manager, and I said, so I want to borrow £42,000. I didn't have anything to put towards it at the time. I had hardly any money at all. So the bank manager went, no. Sorry, Emily, we're not going to lend you any money. You've got no collateral, you've got nothing to put it on, you own nothing, you've got no assets. No, thank you. You're too high risk. That was the camper van out the window. That didn't stop me. So instead of buying a camper van, I then bought a gazebo. Around loads of car boots and stuff, and bought some lights off of eBay. I set up the photo booth in my little lawn at the front of this communal gardens of my flat, and got my neighbours to come and play in the photo booth to test it out. I managed to blag some free spaces at some festivals from my contacts through my event management role, which was a godsend. Like, if it wasn't for that role at Booker, then I wouldn't be where I am today, because it was that kind of seed was planted, and also it kind of got me in there. It wasn't until October 2011 that I decided to leave my job at Booker. I opened up a shop. We don't really talk about it. It was open for 6 months. End of. Blah blah blah. If you want to know more about that, I'll put some links back to my time when I was really struggling back then. Anyway, I'm kind of telling you my life story. This kind of wasn't really the point of this. Look like my mum in the 80s. It wasn't until I gave up the shop that I then found weddings, and my life began. I was just meant to work in weddings. Anyway, so I gave up the shop. I was still working part-time in a bar down in Bournemouth whilst I was building the wedding scene, but things from then have really just been on the slow, gradual incline until now, when now they've gone, hopefully, fingers crossed. I started the photo booth when I wanted to go to festivals, and I could see there was a gap in the market for something quite unique and specific. And when I first started, nobody even knew what a photo booth was. I started doing wedding fairs in early 2011, and people were kind of walking up to me, so what's this then? And I'd have to sort of explain that it was a photo booth, and you put on stupid props, and I just have a giggle really. And yeah, and then from one wedding fair I got more bookings, and things just started to spiral. There wasn't really any other photo booths out there at the time. There was a couple that were, again, have just started to be established. You'll not find better props, better service, more passion and more brilliance than you will here. Oh, hi Ness. Hello. Oh, Ness. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on then, off you go. The very first photo booth that I started was the vintage shabby chic one. I now have several options. I used to love vintage stuff. I mean, I still love vintage clothes and kind of retro stuff, but I don't completely live that lifestyle. I like to kind of mix things up with modern, and that resonates in the business as well. All of my props that you can see here today are all carefully selected from trawling around car boots and vintage shops and charity shops, trying to find the best vintage props, and that's where I differ from a lot of other photo booths. I love my props. For you? So all my props are genuine vintage or vintage look-alike, and mixed kind of with a modern twist as well. The vintage one, which I'm kind of showcasing all the props for you today, is the most popular one, and you know, without a doubt, it's the prettiest, it's the original, it's the best. The vintage wedding scene is a trend that is still going strong. I think it will start to plateau out a little bit, and you know, we're starting to see lots more people adding a lot more poppy colour to their weddings. You know, it's not just weddings, I do lots of parties and events as well, so I wanted to be able to sort of attract as much of a market as possible. I don't want to pigeonhole myself into that kind of vintage niche. So, but I've also marketed myself as a vintage photo booth. So what I then did was added a couple more different package options to the mix, and next up was the vintage Hollywood. So I've got a lovely red velvet backdrop with more sort of luxe props with the old velvet gloves and kind of feather boas and cigarette sticks, very kind of Breakfast at Tiffany's, Marilyn Monroe, that sort of thing. And then was the comic book. Now the comic book one is my absolute favourite. I love comic books, I love the bright colours, I love the artwork, the design element of comic books and graphic novels, and also I was always a massive fan of Roy Lichtenstein and Andy Warhol back in my college days. They were always huge inspirations for me. So my comic book one really is my absolute favourite, and you know, go and have a look on the website, go and have a look through all the different props on the website and the photos, but it's so bright, it's so colourful, and that is my absolute favourite. Are you a comic book bride out there? If so, you need me there. You need to complete your package with a comic book photo booth. The last one that I've recently just added just last year was the rockabilly one, so it's kind of a 50s style. We've got some really nice kind of rock and roses in there, kind of guitars and records. The prop boxes are constantly evolving, and I am regularly losing props and stuff anyway, so I'm always replacing them, and it's not a problem, you know, unless things get really damaged, then we might have to have words, but until that happens, I'll let you off, you know, the odd tash does get broken. In conclusion, this is the best photo booth you will find anywhere for your wedding or event, and if you want me to come along to your event and have some banter with your guests and use the best props ever, and you can now have printing as a package, or you don't have to, you can go for the original package. It's up to you. We're totally flexible here to come to your big day, because I love you guys and I love weddings and I love being part of it. I love banter. Hey, banter! Best props, best service, best passion, best photo booth ever. Go and book me! Book me, book me, book me! Get in touch, get in touch! You know you want to, you know you want to. You want to kiss him, you want to hug him, you want to put a tash on him, you want to put a hat on him.